This is I Am Change podcast. Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. There is zero success without change. Be the change you want to see. Believe, focus, achieve. Tensions are running high over the arrest of Omoleye Sowore, the convener of the Coalition for Revolution and the former presidential candidate of the African Action Congress in the just concluded 2019 general election. He was arrested on the 3rd of August 2019 by the Department of State Services over his planned Revolutionnow protest, which has sparked a lot of agitations. The former presidential candidate says the revolution is to liberate Nigeria from maladministration, insecurity, and lots more. In this podcast edition, Mr. Kletsaint Akor, Chancellor, Save the Future of the African Child, also known as MMAS, and Ogebe Jones, International Public Relations Consultant, public speaker, and the CEO of Speed Media, debates on this burning issue. Many thanks for joining me again. It's I Am Change podcast, and I remain your host, Joyce Ometu. Alright, so many thanks for joining me on I Am Change podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Alright. So I'll start with you, Mr. Kletsaint. So Nigerians have fundamental rights, one of which is entitlement to protest and agitate peacefully against anything they feel is not in their interests, most especially when it concerns issues of governance. Do you think the arrest of Omoleye Sowore and stopping people to protest suggests any form of infringement on human rights?
I think to a great extent, yes, because in a society governed by constitution, like Nigeria is, and in a democratic society,
Okay.
there are acts that guides everything that we do generally, to put it in a normal, open palace word. But in Article 40 of the Nigerian constitution, it's clearly enshrined there that we have the rights, which is a draw-in from the UN Charter on Human Rights, that every constituted society have that in their constitution. But Nigeria, Article 40 specified that we have the right of assemblage. We have the right to do all that we need to do,
Right.
except those rights infringe on the fundamental issues or is a threat to our national unity or our collective sovereignty as a nation. So if you look at Article 40, it was spelled out on that. And I think that any attempt to arrest protesters that are peacefully demonstrating issues or concerns that they feel is not okay for them as Nigerians or anywhere in the world, I think it's an abuse of their fundamental human rights. So in the case of Sowore, I would say that it's an infringement on their fundamental human rights.
Alright, Mr. Jones, what actually is revolution?
Well, that's a little bit interesting. Revolution, to put it mildly, is a form of agitation. We call for, good governance. It could be policy changing, So it's more of a costless cause that has to be involved, that is driven by an individual, like an initiative driven by an individual. So, and within the context of what just happened in Nigeria, talking about Sowore's call for revolution now, I think that in itself defines revolution, because there are demands. He has very reasonable demands, numbers of demands that he is putting forward that he feels that needs to be treated. So he called it revolution, even though I totally disagree with that term.
Why so?
Well, when people call for revolution, right? Revolution is not just what you say. The first thing, the hashtag Revolutionnow, to me, it doesn't make sense, because revolution doesn't happen now. It's a process that is engaged, well thought after, right? And then when you look at, for example, the French Revolution, when you look at the American Revolution that resulted in American independence, when you look at the Chinese Revolution, that the recent one, 1965, when you look at it, they have specific demands that they want. Yeah. But when you look at Sowore's issue, for example, is asking for what is right at the wrong time, at the right place. Is there any for a call for revolution in Nigeria? Yes. Is the timing right? Well, maybe yes and no. But here it is. Is he prepared? Is there a plan? Because one thing that makes those revolution that I just mentioned, among hundreds of revolution, is preparedness.
Okay.
It's a plan B. And then consistency. Right? I was arguing just that very day that happened with some learned individuals, and I told them, look, the moment that it was announced that Sowore has been arrested, that is the death of Revolutionnow. You know why? Because there is no plan.
Okay.
It's not like totally emotionally driven. There are no people's sentiments taken into consideration. You understand? So everybody see it as a personal ambition.
Right.
And there is a difference between a revolution and a personal ambition. And Nigerians are way too intelligent to draw between those thin line. Yes. So revolution is a call to action. An action with a precedent action, well planned. You understand? So you don't just say action now, because nothing really happens now. There has to be a fundamental plan. It has to be philosophical approach to revolution to keep it moving, really. So that's my take on that.
All right, Mr. Kletsaint, do you agree with him?
Yeah, well, I have some certain reservations, which I'm going to address. First of all, I want to actually specifically define what revolution is. From my take here, a revolution is a very sharp change made to something. The word comes from Latin and is related to word revolutio, which means turnaround. Other events called revolution include, like what he said, the American Revolution, shift from the agrarian society to an industrial one, an industrial revolution. So specifically, the Nigerian Constitution don't give consideration to that word revolution, because if Sowore, like he already does, have one of the best constitutional lawyers, that is Falana, they can take this case anywhere and it's going to win, because there were precedents on that use of that word even within our 20 years of sustained democracy, which we have now, a democratic way of Nigeria. The incumbent president has used the word before. The opposition party have used the word several times, and I think the government that was then understands the place of the Nigerian Constitution concerning that. But I will say that if you look critically at the terms mentioned, the word that were used, you understand? Again, the government have the right to pick him up. But in any ways, I would say the critical issue, like Falana said, that we need to look at is that even the very word, you can only arrest somebody when it's only already acting that word, trying to seize government, that you can hold him to it. If I come and say I want to do a revolution, I publicize it on social media, I said I want to do a revolution, it can be just a mere dream. But if I'm engaged in the action, sure, it never happened. And constitutional lawyers are already saying, and a lot of learned people in Nigeria are saying, it is wrong to actually arrest him. It's a complete abridgment of his fundamental human rights.
So if I got you correctly, you think the term revolution now is actually the problem? You are not against revolution?
I'm not even against revolution now.
Okay.
Because I spelled define revolution to you, rather.
Yeah.
And from my definition, you know what it means. It can be an industrial revolution. It can be because you are not caught in the act. I am trying to break into Diamond Bank, and I told some friends, they now told the police that I'm trying to break into Diamond Bank. You can relate it to, if you go to the court, you can relate it to momentary insanity. You can say at that point that I said that and I was drunk. You understand? And probably when they try to trace my blood sample and that is already passed, it has been washed away. So there's a legal standing for me that this guy just said that out of a joke.
Right.
And he was arrested. If I'm caught in the act breaking into Diamond Bank, then you can say I've actually committed. So you can relate that to Sowore. I don't know if it makes any sense to you. I can say revolution now. I'm preparing to go and commit something, but you're trying to resist me from committing that thing. Your constitution did not say, there's no provision to say, okay, resist him from committing it. Do you know the ground that I said that? Maybe I'm emotionally imbalanced. Maybe there's something wrong with me. First of all, you need to check that. But peradventure, for me, if he was caught in the act of trying to do all that he said he was going to do, then he can be picked and locked up. But for now, I strongly believe that it can just be a figment of his imagination. And for some of the words also used, like I said, that's why I have some grievances like taking over government, dismantling DSS and all those stuff. I completely disagree with this approach. For give and take, I still think it has a very strong chance and is working within the purview of his rights.
So the approach is actually the problem.
Yeah, for me, approach. And some certain words, very strong words used that don't really extremely define what revolution is. But revolution now can mean industrial revolution, can mean government need to change some policies, can mean changing the ways that government do things. But when you begin to use some certain words, then it connotes the extreme nature of revolution. Government might have an edge towards that.
Mr. Jones, you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to just pop in something a little bit on that part. Unfortunately, what my colleague and very, very intelligent friend is talking about here doesn't work within the purview of the law, right? So when you mess up, right, like erring on the part of the law, which he never did, he erred on the part of ignorance. So you get messed up big time. That's what happens to you. Now, he called revolution, and then he's trying to, like, maybe the guy is drunk or he's insane. There is no provision in the law for that. Right? It's either you're on the side of the law or you err ignorantly, just like Sowore did. And I'm very, very disappointed that someone at the status, you know, when you look at Sowore, his activism started way back during that jail time.
Yeah.
Right. So the law cannot help Sowore because they have explored all the windows they could, but he still erred on the part of the law. You understand? So the issue of if Sowore said that seriously or probably he's in a dream or in a form of trance, I don't think that counts. I just want to balance that. Yes. It's very, very important to understand what the law says about certain steps that we take. You don't just let out certain words, you know, that will unseat the government or make the government uncomfortable. I don't think it's the right thing to do. And there are ways, I mean, when you talk about revolution, for example, people have done it before. Why don't you study how they've done it? You understand? So I am one of the people that feel, that's my own opinion, strongly about it, that Sowore is looking for a cheap publicity, which he's getting, right? Without taking cognizance into the fact that he just contested for president. So the odds totally are against him. You understand? I could go on and on, right? On and on about things he did post his election and even after the presidential contest that he did, that doesn't necessarily put him in the position, even though we're looking at, yes, his fundamental right, but he should have taken into cognizance some of those actions that happened, even within his own small group. What happened then? There's a huge, you know, disagreement and all that. So calling for revolution, getting people involved, people's life at stake and all that requires much more than what he did.
All right, talking about disagreements, Nigerians are obviously divided in their opinions on the issue. Even in the studio here, there's obviously division between both of you. So they are saying that Sowore being the presidential candidate in the last election and staging a Revolutionnow movement could mean a failed presidential aspirant trying to overthrow his sitting government. Share your thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know if you listen to a popular Fela song that talks about Nigerians suffering and smiling. You understand?
Yeah.
Sowore might probably come with a very good intent, right? But did he buy into the emotions? Did he connect with the normal people on the street for them to be able to buy into his call for revolution? The answer is totally no, right? So in my own opinion, if that answers your questions, for example, is that people will be very, very differentiated when it comes to this issue of Sowore.
Right.
I'm telling you, everybody's going to see it as a personal ambition, not with the interest of the masses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Klet.
Okay, thank you very much. I am very specific when I speak on issues like this because I, first of all, want to be able to pour out my own opinion concerning it, then also be able to give some form of education, which I believe that the platform is all about.
Absolutely.
Then, in the provision of the Constitution, the word interest was not defined. It wasn't defined whether it's a personal interest or it's a national interest. So for the fact that Sowore was a presidential candidate, it's a moral issue for us to say that the morality of this case, Sowore was a presidential candidate.
Okay.
But the Constitution did not exempt him from that right that he has. So when you read Article 40 of the Nigerian Constitution, like I mentioned, the Section 40 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, provides as follows: every person shall be entitled to assembly freely and associate with other persons. And in particular, he may form or belong to any political party, trade union, or any association for the protection of his interests.
Okay.
This was personalized. And political party will mention. So that for the fact that Sowore was in a political party, it does not exempt, the constitution does not exempt him. He has that right as a Nigerian. If he has an interest that he wants to push, if the interest is to change the system, I can bring every other person on board. I can bring the trade union on board. I can even bring my political party on board to push that interest. But there's also a clause to that. They say once it does not infringe on the sovereignty of Nigeria, the reason why we all collectively put together.
Yeah.
But what he said, does he infringe on the sovereignty of Nigeria? He has not committed the act. I'm not a lawyer, but I think my main perspective here as just a Nigerian and as a Democrat from my school of thought is that I stand with Falan and I said that act has not been committed. I didn't say he was drunk. He had a particular interest of what he wants to push. That's what the constitution says, and he wanted change. Maybe the change that he desired, the change that he pursued of being a presidential candidate was not attained because he wasn't given the opportunity. The constitution does not stop him from also promoting that interest. For him, for his generation, he wanted change. And does it have followership? Yes, it did. Does the Revolutionnow happened? And I want to tell you categorically about work. For me, for organization which I lead, we don't several work, but our work is pro-Nigeria. Our work is pro-government. We try to highlight some very basic and salient issue for government to understand and for people to understand. We become a bridge between the people and the government. And for those works that we've done, with major works that have gotten several international acclaim, both national and international acclaim, is that we try to address certain issues. And I always tell people in the civil society that when people work, it doesn't matter whether it's one person.
Right.
You understand? You are trying to pass a message. A work is not 10,000 people. Once 1, 2, 3 people join you to work, or even only you've passed the message. All you need is to create a medium like the media for them to be able to address. And a good person that have done that is a former presidential candidate. She actually pulled out, Sowore. She worked for the Chibok Girls. At a point, they were working in group, but at a point, she actually worked alone to the presidency, and the media carried it. It's very significant for us to know that Sowore shouldn't be destroyed because he wants a better society. Sowore should be just because he has an interest, even though it's personal, but he has followership of people that believe in him. It's okay. If he goes and work, and they begin to burn houses, and they begin to shoot police, and they begin to carry arms, you can arrest him and persecute him in line with the constitution of federal Nigeria, because the constitution is already infringing on the sovereignty of Nigeria. But for now, I hope that the DSS and the federal government are able to gather enough evidence to prove to the court. They got an interim this thing to be able to put him under custody for 45 days, and by extension, that's already been challenged. Because there's one side of the court that says that they will challenge that given the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. For ex parte orders, you probably will not seek the opinion of the other person. You just grant that because it's necessary at that time. But I believe that when the opinion and other legal people sit together and look at it broadly, I think there will be a readjustment or a change in the approach that the government has.
So the group recently reiterated their 5 core demands, which is 1, an economy that works for the masses, an effective and democratic end to insecurity, an end to systematic corruption, and for total change, the immediate implementation of the 30,000 minimum wage, including free and qualitative education for all. Mr. Jones, what is the assurance that what the Coalition for Revolution movement is proposing will produce positive results?
Like I said, right, this is a movement or a demand that is done, right?
Right.
The question is it done at the right time? Is it done through the proper channel? Well, the answer is left for you to answer. It's revolution. So, for me, I feel like there are better ways to have communicated what he's trying to communicate, even though his demands are genuinely correct, right? The people need those things.
Right.
But how do you go about sending those messages to the government?
So what other ways do you think he would have?
I think he shouldn't use the word revolution, because that's what has been used against him now, trying to topple the government. Now, you see, when you are trying to lead a movement like this, the psychology of the country, the psychology of the people has to bring into foreplay. You understand? Now everybody will look at it. What were the strongest allegations they are bringing against him now? Oh, Sowore wants to take over the government because they were not offering him a ministerial position. Sowore, you know, a lot of those things that could actually catch up with the sentiments of the people. You understand? I think he didn't take into consideration some of those things, right? But again, revolution is a strong word for those demands, because you would have used any other platform, any other work to pass his message across to the government. But don't forget, there are also Sowore getting into media coverage, international media coverages and all that, his case being in the courts now. The government have, you know, gotten the message he's trying to send. But the platform or the process with which he is trying to send this message, is it okay? Is it friendly for those demands? I don't think.
So what other platforms do you think he would have used?
He could have used a more peaceful match. Right,
but it was a peaceful match. Well, there was no violence.
That's why I told you that his intent is at, you know, conflict with his presentation. So you have this beautiful demand, and then you call it revolution. So I don't deal with you as my friend who wants to, you know, give me a list of demand. You're coming to me as a scorpion, even though, you know, the facade you carried is more like a scorpion. Even though what you have, you're flinging a green leaf. You understand? Like you are waving for peace. But the persona with which you present your demands is not friendly. So I'm going to first of all treat you for who you are. Then later I can look at your demands. That's what Sowore did. So if you're making demands, because what they see, revolution, the first thing in Nigeria, what the leader we have now, you understand? Right. The interpretation of that revolution is attempt to topple the government.
So you agree with Mr. Kletsaint saying that the word is actually the problem, the term used is the problem?
The term, I wouldn't say it's the problem. The term is too strong for the demand Sowore is making. And then when you look at the plan, that is not how other people carry revolution. Right? So it's a major conflict between demand and the presentation, the platform with which he's using to present. Sowore could have just done a peaceful march, called for a peaceful march. He has a platform, he belongs to a party. He could have just liaised with other, you know, social group to just carry out a normal march and press forth. And let's see, you'll be amazed at the results Sowore would have gotten. If the approach was peaceful. A lot of people are afraid of revolution in the country we live in, because people that would have supported him would never be with him because of the term.
But Buhari also led a revolution.
Did you demand for Buhari to be locked up? Then you didn't. So these are two different things. Buhari demand is a past tense. So if you let it go, this is my purview now. I run things now. You can't use that word. I mean, they were calling Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu that he made certain comments about, you know, calling for revolution. Did you arrest him that time? Nobody arrested him per se. So if just because some people made that remarks doesn't make it right, and we shouldn't refer. So if anybody had issue with that, maybe you should go through the proper channel to recall that.
Mr. Kletsaint.
Yes.
Okay, by and large, for me, like I said, revolution can be interpreted, but let's leave it for the learned colleague schooled people in the constitutional law. And like I said, when you go to the dictionary, you can see several definitions. Yeah. So I think in the court, I might take a particular definition, and because there are several, you can't point me to the extreme nature of what revolution is. Like I said, it's a change of things, the way things are, to change the way things are. So they can pin them on that. But the case is already in court, it's an experience. It will set a path for subsequent use of that word, whether it's supposed to be used or not. Because in a constituted society like Nigeria, where there's a supreme constitution that governs all of us, at times the constitution needs to be tried. You need to bring cases that will try the constitution and say, okay, henceforth, maybe the National Assembly will legislate that in Nigeria, the word revolution should not be used.
Okay.
I can point you back, just a little digression, that before now, the issue of same-sex marriage was not legislated.
Right.
So there can be gay walking around the street. You can only use one part of the law to say you are public disturbance or trying to do an immoral act. Absolutely. That does not hold water in the law court. But now, the 7th Assembly, led by former Senate President David Mark, legislated that said same-sex marriage is prohibited in Nigeria. So anybody that commit that act is liable to go to prison, or there's a penalty for that. So maybe this will lead us as a country to point out some certain word that's going to be legislated, that in the context of Nigeria, if you use revolution, it means that you want to topple our government, and it's legislated. so that Sowore too can be guided. So that if he affrontly go and use that word, he can now be persecuted and sent to prison because it means treason. This is not a military regime. This is a democratic society. You can say that Trump is the most useless president, even in America. They can't arrest you. It's your personal opinion concerning Donald Trump. You understand? You're not trying to verify the office of the president. You're just expressing your own thoughts, your own feelings, and you have the right to do that in a civil society. And I think it applies to Nigeria. But my advice would be, are there better ways to do it? Yeah. If you want to get a generation of people to be part of what you're doing, I spoke before this, we'll have a chit chat before the interview. Right. I told you that a better way to do it, because this is also supposed to inform Nigeria, a better way to be able to do it was to become, like, I agree with Mr. Jones that said it should be inclusive. There are people that have been doing several works before, that they bring back our girls. Yeah. The girls have not been completely brought out. You can bring their interest into it and make it a national interest, because I support that wholeheartedly. Right. We have some few girls brought back, and Mr. President said, as part of his agenda before he was elected 2015, he said that now he's been re-elected. The Chibok girls need to be brought back. 30,000 minimum will need to be implemented because the government has agreed to it. All those are germane stuff. But maybe if it's inclusive, it is well processed. You can see people bringing ideas. Okay, I think we should call it the hostess. We should call it the host. We should call it host and hostess. So when it's inclusive, people suggest and bring ideas on how to modify it to make it better. I think that room probably was not given. I don't know the genesis or the thought process I went through that. I believe that it would have been in a civil society where people support peaceful protests, like someone that have led several marches, like I said, with international acclaim. You would have given a team that brings the people together, not separate the people. Right? So in the future, people want to agitate for something. You'll be careful with some certain words that you want to target, because I might misinterpret it. I might represent a certain violence group, and when I hear revolution, I can cash in on that to want to commit a crime that is at variance with what the objective of that is. Because the objective that you read out for Nigerians are genuine objectives, something that I want. I support it wholeheartedly. I want 30,000 minimum implemented. I want a good system. I want a Nigeria that can be a home for all. I want banditry ended. I want Boko Haram seized. I want every good thing as a Nigeria. I want all that, and that is not happening. And I support the idea to make the government see, or push for government to be able to see our pains, to say that you need to move in this direction, because it's democracy, it's government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's supposed to be an inclusive, it's supposed to be an inclusiveness to the approach of governance in Nigeria, which I believe that that's what Sowore stands for. But probably the word, the interpretation became an issue. But I still stand on my fact that his arrest is against his fundamental human right.
All right, thank you very much for that. Thank you again. Thank you very much for your contributions, your insightful analysis. Thank you.
And thank you very much. The coffee, please.
I'll leave you with this quote by John F. Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to I Am Change podcast. I'm Joyce Ometu.